And tonight we'll be looking at the idea of trading. So obviously it's a big part of chess is when pieces come off the board, suddenly the pieces that remain on the board have different roles and positions, and it can change. And we'll look at when we want to trade pieces and what kind of pieces should you trade and things of that nature. So I got 4 puzzles tonight that we'll take a look at. And the first one, this is the one we'll actually watch this whole game. It'll be Anatoly Karpov versus Lautier from Biel 1992. And this one we will watch the whole game, though we're gonna just breeze through the opening here. It was a semi-Slav, so if we're here on Monday night, we got our big semi-Slav lectures. Okay, and in a normal semi-Slav position like this, he plays very positionally because he's Karpov. He gets to move e4 in, and after a few more moves, bishop f4, and it's all about trading, so he trades lots of stuff, and we reach this position. So let's pause here for a minute, and as always, when we see a new position like this, I kind of like to evaluate the position. So I want to give you guys a minute. At home, you can go ahead and pause your video if you want to think about this position. How would you assess this? Like, who's better, why? What trumps do each side have? What disadvantages do they have? That wasn't intentional. Yeah. All right, now we got to ban this video because it's election night, and that wasn't on purpose. Yeah.
White seems to have a space advantage.
Yeah, exactly. White has more space. Perfect. That's one big plus.
Black pieces are all really connected.
Black pieces are all really connected. Okay. Yeah, so equal share of the D file. Both players have equal access to the D file. How would you compare the bishops?
Black's bishop is horrible.
Black's bishop is horrible, right. So obviously what Black needs to do to make his bishop not horrible is play the move c5. If he plays the move c5, then all of his pieces are good. That solves all of his problems. So we want to think prophylactically here. So how did Karpov prevent the move c5? So you could play a move like c5. However, if we look at the weakness of the last move, you've kind of given me access to this square. I can drop my rook in here, and this should be okay for me, because I'm attacking all of your pawns. If you just play f4, I'm going to take on c5 or whatever you want to do. So that is an interesting idea, but it's not quite the strongest move. Yeah.
Maybe bishop f3, threatening or preventing c4, at least the immediate.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Bishop f3. Sorry, my voice. Bishop f3 preventing c5. Okay. Black still, he's like, okay, I need to play c5, but my bishop's only protected once. So I'll go back to the 8th rank. Okay, next move, I play c5. And so here, Karpov actually did an interesting thing by kind of breaking a rule that we've probably all been taught at some point. And that's we're going to look at examples today of trades where you sort of break a conventional rule. You don't want to get too caught up in like chess dogma and thinking too dogmatically about any position. You want to think, okay, in this exact concrete position, I really want to emphasize how bad this bishop is. That's what I'm playing for. The only way I'm going to have a decent advantage here with white is if I can keep him passive forever. But obviously, he's just ready to play c5. So who here can play like Karpov? Yeah.
Rook takes d8.
Rook takes d8. Yeah. And in general, you don't want to just concede a file. However, here he has a very concrete idea. So Black took back with his rook. Okay, so still c5 is coming. Rook d1. Yes, this is very interesting because, okay, you challenge the file, but now after we take back, you've had to put your bishop on a worse square. You had to go all the way back to d1. Plus, since it's Black's turn, now he gets to seize the d file. So, okay, kind of a rule is don't give up the files. And here we can see the queen is going to be coming down somewhere. Obviously, we're attacking the bishop, so the bishop moved back to f3, still preventing c5. And now the queen gets to come in. So this is what happens when you give up files. Their pieces get really active. And for the moment, we're threatening to win your b-pawn. And now this next maneuver is really awesome. And this is, this is what Karpov's good at. So here you may want to pause your video, see if you can find the nice little sequence that Karpov came up with. And it's these little tiny brilliancies that, that really impresses me when I watch Karpov games. It's these little ideas. So yeah, go ahead, and you guys will get a couple minutes here. Queen h4. Okay, this is a very interesting move, the move queen h4. Though, it looks like it does have one problem. So your point is, if I take here, I might get checkmated. Maybe. But I think actually I do have time to get away with this check, which forces you here, and I can grab this guy. G3 or king back, whatever you want to do. Now I should be able to, I can play f6 or drop my queen back or whatever I got to do to not get back rank mated, and I snatched a pawn. And kind of a more important one, this e-pawn. And in these structures, well, it often ends up, we'll go back to this position, that this in the endgame actually can be a really big weakness. It's either a strength because you're taking more space and cramping your opponent, or in a position like this, you can see we can check you and take your pawn. So it can actually end up sometimes backfiring and be a weakness. Another common move that I've heard people suggest when I was out in the club just showing this to people, because that's how I prepare. I just show people, see what they would say. A lot of people like to go here, but this actually doesn't cause any problems because we can trade and play c5. And black's perfectly fine. He got to play c5. So what Karpov did, and this is really awesome. Okay, I don't want you to take my b-pawn. b3. You can have my a-pawn and go way over there. Okay. And now what makes this particularly aesthetic, I just played b3, b4. I couldn't play b4 in the original position because your queen would take it. So b3, b4. And now the queen, she went to the bank, she robbed the bank, took the loot. Now you gotta get out. Take the money and then just leave town. That's what happens. And obviously now white gets the file and the queen had to go back. So, okay, a lot has changed now over the course of a few moves. I did give up the file, which ended up costing me a pawn. However, I'm still playing against this really bad bishop. And he figures that's worth a pawn. You have that bad bishop for the rest of the game. And okay, good, you got a pawn, great. So to make sure, again, you're maybe thinking about playing c5. So I play c5 myself. And now it's even better than in the other variation without the rooks that can come to d5 and extra supported. Okay, so black takes. And I wonder, how would you guys take back here? These are sort of simple choices that you have to make in the game of chess. You have two ways to take back. And I think there's pros and cons to both of them. But I really like the way that he took back. You want to take with a pawn. Okay. Why do you want to take with a pawn? So your queen can move. Okay. And you're thinking, yeah, maybe the queen has a great square. You blockaded this pawn, so okay, this guy is never going to move. That's the obvious upside. However, you do give black a passer, which is kind of dangerous. I think maybe even immediately I'm thinking I'm going to start pushing this guy. And okay, so you have to worry about this. I do have some counterplay. I still have a bad piece, but I'm up a pawn and it's an outside passer. So you do have to be kind of worried about that. So instead, he took with his queen, which not only doesn't give black any counterplay. Okay, we're threatening the a7 pawn. And we have a threat. And so once you realize what your threat is here, and you realize what black has to play in this position, then, okay, I think you're going to like taking with the queen. What am I threatening? b5. Yeah, attacking the pawn, and there's a pin here on the c file. So black had to play the move a6. Not the move you wanted to play, because your bishop's never getting out. So let's, yeah, extra make sure that even in some lines, you know, the bishop never even comes out, even if you give the pawn back or whatever. Now he's really trapped in there. Okay. So he brought his queen in. We'll get to the next main part here. h4. Okay, and maybe I'll do some stuff on the other wing. Maybe I can, you know, get a nice strong pawn here. And black plays h5, which actually turns out to be a big mistake. Now here again, this part is, you know, amazing as well. And I'll ask you first what the winning plan is now for white. Can you imagine that? He already has a very, very strong plan. And then for bonus credit, what famous game does that remind you of? They got no chance, but you got a chance. This game was played in 1992. Does that help you? Because you know the famous 1991 game? You remember who had white?
Short.
Yeah, Nigel Short. Okay, good job. We've got a very strong audience. All right, because we got Wally here tonight, so he's pretty good. Yeah, Nigel Short, that famous game. Does anybody else know what he did in that game? He had a very triumphant king march over towards the other king to help assist in checkmate. So the king goes up to g3. So this was a year later, so presumably he knew that game. And now, a very interesting moment in the game. Okay, I see you're going to bring your king in, and you're going to try to checkmate me. So I want to trade the queens. And again, you have to ask yourself, we're down a pawn. So should we trade queens, or should we move our queen somewhere else? And okay, the obvious question is, if I trade queens, do I win? That's what you want to see. Whenever they offer you a trade in a position like this, do I win? Do I win if I trade queens, or do I need to keep them on the board and keep playing against your bad bishop?
I think you need to keep them on the board.
Oh, you think you need to keep them on?
I think, I may be wrong, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there are no mating threats, and I don't know how you're going to win in a queenless endgame when you're down a pawn and your opponent can seemingly easily create a passer on the queen side, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, he's going to make a passer on the queen side, potentially. Now, to shock you, he did trade the queens.
All right. Karpov.
He's Karpov. Right, and right, it's again, it's a move you may not consider, just even on basis of general rules. Don't trade when you're down in material. You trade when you're up in material. But all these rules, you know, it always comes back to what the concrete position is, and you want to think about the actual position and not just whatever, some dogmatic sentence you've heard once and just do whatever that is. That's how, you know, a lot of people are stuck in that, and it prevents them. But so he had to see here a winning plan. And he's Karpov, so he figured it out. But yeah, it's not so obvious at first. Okay. Okay, so he saw a position like this. And one of the problems is, if I'm ever going to liberate this bishop, you know, without losing a pawn, I'm going to have to get my king over here somewhere to protect the bishop, and I can push one of the pawns. But you can never really do that, because I'm too fast over on this side of the board. And there actually is a winning plan, so let's pause here again, and you can pause at home for more time. Can you find a winning plan for white?
Bishop e4.
Okay, bishop e4. And what's your plan?
Bishop e4, I want to attack the pawn on g6.
Okay, so you want to go here, which was played. And you want to go take this?
Yes.
Okay, let me not do anything for a second. Do you want to take it? Okay. You sure? Yeah. Okay, you sure? I took it.
Okay.
You're going to take? All right. And if you take, Yeah, I'm gonna beat you.
But I think Steve was right in pointing out bishop e4, you just maybe missed. The idea
Yeah, so this actually, it's an idea that may occur. This sacrifice is something we do want to keep in mind, but we have to make sure we know what black's going to do. And he's really quick. I play c5 and then I have a passer.
Right. I believe the bishop e4 move is most useful as a threat move, just so you could do f3 and then g4.
F3, g4. Awesome. Awesome. What was your name again?
James.
James?
Yeah.
That's good. Is this your first class?
Yep.
Okay, cool. G4. And this is the winning idea. We're going to break through. Because if you take, which was not played, we can take back. And yeah, etc. And if you don't, then I take twice on h5. So he went here. And OK, so here, OK, the game ends. And also, it's kind of funny. He waits a little bit, tortures him just a little bit. And now black resigned. So OK, my king goes back here, and my pawn goes this way. If you go stop him with your king, then I get to enter and take all of your stuff. So a very instructive example by Karpov, breaking several rules that you may know about trading. And it turned out to be just fantastic. He thought concretely about the position, was able to play against this bad piece and keep the bishop trapped for the duration of the entire game. OK, now we're going to go on to another example. This one will be a lot quicker. We'll flip it. So here's a position that I just want to look at briefly. This is Alexei Gusev versus Razwal Imov. I'm not going to pronounce anything right, especially with a sore throat. But it was played in 2011. Can you read those names? OK, so in this position, it's black to move. And what we want to do with this exercise is we want to think about which piece black wants to trade, and then figure out how to do it. And to make this work, we really want to be thinking about all of our pieces. What are we going to do with every single one of our pieces? What's the general plan? So if you're familiar with this pawn structure, which, OK, you want to be familiar with certain pawn structures if you're going to be playing them, perhaps this move will just come to you. And I think this is the kind of puzzle where either you know this maneuver and you can see it in 1 second, or you don't know it and you'll never see it until you've seen it for the first time. So hopefully for a lot of people this is a new idea, even though it's a very well-known idea. So I'm going to give you guys a minute or two. And at home, pause your videos, get a little more time. We got a lot of firepower in the audience now, so no? So OK, so we'll see what you guys come up with. I'll give you guys a minute. All right, do we have any general ideas of where we'd like to get some of our pieces? Yeah?
Well, the knight on d7 is, it looks uncomfortable there.
OK. Yeah, where might he want to go?
Maybe c5, which is prevented by the square bishop.
Right. Yeah, maybe he wants to go to c5, but obviously, this might end up ruining your pawn structure, so we do have to be careful with that. But that is the idea hidden in this entire position. OK, very good. Yeah. Timur?
I believe, yeah. And so maybe if we could find a way to trade the dark square.
Yeah, if you could find a way to trade the dark squared bishops, then you'd be all set.
Right.
Your knight goes to c5. And that indeed is the idea. But the question now is, how do you do it? How do I trade this guy for that guy?
Perhaps there's a tactical method.
Do you see it? Is there a tactical way? Do you know this idea?
Queen h4 check, and then no, I'm sorry. Bishop h6, and then you.
Yeah,
takes,
there you go.
Takes the
OK,
bishop,
awesome.
And then you check.
Yeah, bishop h6 was played. Completely blundering a bishop until you see this check. So this is what was played in the game. And that's enough to say that you solved the puzzle. You achieved your strategic aim, and obviously, unlike tactical puzzles, obviously the game keeps going forever and ever. And black did ultimately win. But that's just a simple puzzle, and OK, he traded the queens, and we'll just look at kind of what happened. All of his pieces found really nice squares on the dark squares. So by trading the dark squared bishop, which was sometimes, it's a good attacking piece, but here he was just kind of blocked in by the pawns. And that gave him all these dark squares on the queen side, so that's where he put all of his pieces. So good, that was very good. All right, we're gonna look at another one. This game was played between Dorota Iwaniuk versus Levon Aronian. Yeah, you heard about the guy, and it's flipped from his perspective. So who do we think won in 2005? Yeah, possibly the guy 500 points higher rated that you've heard of, and we're looking at it from his perspective. Okay, and the theme is trades. And what's sort of the obvious thematic move in a position like this? What should we be looking for? What's the question that we should be asking ourselves in this position? We want to control d5. Yeah, that's in these types of positions, that's always huge. Typically, the liberating move d5 guarantees black equality, so that's definitely going to be a part of this position. But there's an immediate move that we might be looking for here. What am I thinking about? Yeah.
Maybe there's a thematic exchange sacrifice that
Yeah.
arises in these
Right.
positions on
And that's,
three.
yeah, that's the question. So whenever we have these Sicilians, and it'll probably be opposite side castling, otherwise black will just keep his king in the center. We always want to look at this move, rook takes c3. Obviously, you've been told this piece is worth 5, and that piece is worth 3. But, okay, we've been on this theme of challenging these normal assumptions. And it's a very typical attacking move, so in this type of position, it's very normal to try to calculate rook takes c3. Does it work, or does white have a defense? And what's really funny is I tried to find positions at one point. This was like a month ago or something. I was like, I'm going to look at rook takes c3 and these types of positions, and I'm just going to see, like, does it work or does it not? And in doing that, I found like hundreds of games, and it's always good. You always play rook takes c3. You believe that? All right, good. Some people do, some people don't. I hope you don't, because that's the whole point of the lecture. Don't believe me just because I say that. Right. A lot of build-up for that joke. But okay, does it work? That's the big question. So let's think about it. Take a minute at home. What do you got there? What do you got there? What do you got there? Nah. We're passing notes. This is like elementary school in here.
I'm taking notes.
All right, you're taking notes. I'm just taking my time because I guess we got hours to kill here. So just think about this for like 30 minutes. I'll be back. And I guess too, just based on your intuition, does it feel like it works? Obviously, we want to take some time to calculate it, but just what do you guys feel? And since we're in grade school, we can raise our hands. Who wants to take the knight? Nobody? Or who doesn't want to take the knight? A couple people, and most people are just sitting there blankly. Okay. In the game, he did take. And joking aside, it almost always does work. Like, it always play rook takes c3. Yeah, I'm double tricking you now, because now you really should always play rook takes c3. What's the whole point of this lecture? Nobody knows. Okay, and that's exactly what he played, which sort of challenges the assumption that, okay, you trade a 5-point piece for a 3-point piece, that can't be good. But here, super top player went for it. And we'll see he gets a lot of pressure, and he gets an immediate attack, and it works, and he wins. So white has to be passive. He brings more pieces in. And we'll just see the end of this attack. So in this position, he's able to play the move that we were hoping to play here, the move d5. He crashes through. I get to threaten mate in 1. I get to threaten mate in 1, not 1, but I get to threaten mate. You can take, and I take back with my queen. After you defend, I get to threaten mate a couple different ways. So he sacrificed to help defend his rook. And pretty soon here, he just resigns because he's down a lot of material. So, okay, a fantastic example. This was a more attacking kind of position, but we got to keep you guys on your toes. So we'll throw some attacks in there. And yeah, okay. I mean, so obviously when it's opposite side castling, these sacrifices are, a little more obvious than in other positions. But let's do another. This is the game between Maxim Dlugy and Boris Gelfand. Boris here has the black pieces. We'll be looking at it from his point of view. And this was played in 1989. Okay. And so again, I guess before we give any hints or advice here, I want you guys to try to assess it. This is the tough one. I think this one's a lot tougher than any of the other examples. And if you've just joined us, the theme is sort of trading and also, sort of challenging typical chess dogma over what you should trade and why and when and et cetera. So that's a pretty big hint. But I'll give you guys, I kind of want to hear, is black better? Where's equal? Why not? What are the, how can I say this non-politically? What are the advantages? Yeah.
Bishop takes on c3.
Bishop takes on c3. Did that come quite easily to you, or was it the hint?
Because, the bishop on d2 is king.
Right, yeah, so okay, he wants to take the knight because there's a big pin here. Did you notice you're down a pawn? Okay, so you're down a pawn, you're a lot more developed. White still is a little ways from castling. So we do want to do something immediately, because if he plays bishop e2 and castles, then we're down a pawn. So this move does come to mind. And this may seem very strange, because you normally don't give up your best, awesome, all-star bishop, especially not for a knight, and here where we can take back two different ways. So a very interesting decision, and a very good one. And in the game, he took back with the pawn. If you take back with the rook, I take on a2, not only getting my pawn back, but it's surprisingly difficult to defend your b pawn. Because if you put your queen or rook on c2, you got to worry about knight b4. A move like this, you need to be worried about knight to b3. And if you try to play a move like b3, seems sensible enough, well, now that you've given me access here, it's going to be difficult for you to castle, because even if you play bishop e2 and castle, then your bishop's hanging. So for that reason, he took back with a pawn. And it would be very easy to snatch the pawn on a2, but he instead decides to develop more pieces and go after the guy on c4. His next move is going to be knight e5, and then he's going to take on c4. Okay, and there's a little bit more to this puzzle. So white defends, and black goes through with his plan. He attacks the c4 pawn. Now he takes. And now in this position, so this actually is pretty cool here. I think, you may want to pause now because I'm going to give some hints, but you may want to take your time and think about this position. Can you play one of the two winning moves? There's two winning moves here. And they're both awesome and spectacular. He played the second best move, which also wins, and is a little more spectacular than the best move. So, okay, we'll give you guys a second, and we'll talk about it and give you guys some hints if we need to. This is obviously the hardest puzzle of the day. What's best move here? Have you figured it out?
I moved left in my mind and I can't say no to it.
All right, what move left to your mind that you can't say no to?
Well, the problem is that strategically you're not supposed to do this thing.
Right, you're strategically not supposed to do it. Huh. Yeah, huh, interesting. Yeah.
Well, that's too much of a hint.
That's too much of a hint? No, I've been telling that this the whole time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's moves that challenge the way that you typically think about the game and the position, and you play moves that you wouldn't normally play. Right, yeah, right, and right, it really takes your opponent by surprise, so I think perhaps some people in the audience have figured out what was played. But also there's an even stronger move.
Boris played that one?
He played the move that I think you're thinking about. But yeah, but there's an even stronger move.
I was thinking of
Which one?
G5.
G5. This was played in the game.
Oh,
Yeah, G5.
That's what all the games
Yeah, right. Always moving the G pawns. Right. So the point is, when you take back, there's going to be a check, and then we're going to be able to grab the bishop. However, the strongest move, and again, you can pause at home, but It's really tough. You can actually play the move knight a4, and you're threatening to trap the queen. So some random move, the queen is trapped. So what white has to do is take here, and then he's not going to be able to castle. You're just going to bring your rook in, and okay, this is just crushing for black here. And okay, obviously in a position like this after they play e2, I think a lot of people will just instinctually bring their last piece into the game, and okay, if you let me castle, but obviously this still is better for black. But he went for a more immediate solution, which, you know, the very exciting move here, g5, you know, a move that you don't normally move your pawns in front of your king, and it's hanging, I'm gonna take it. So he tossed this check in, and he grabbed the bishop. And okay, we'll enjoy the end of the game here. You can take two different pawns. He went here. Now if you castle knight e3, which is what happened. So okay, he's going to lose some material. Okay, and this is now just winning here for black. And for a top grandmaster, it wasn't more than you know, technical victory from that point. So right, so even seeing this, even if you were able to consider this move, which you would, this is the move that sort of started it all, trading, you know, the greatest bishop of all time whenever you play the fianchetto variations and you have that super long diagonal. For a piece here that looks like it can be captured 3 different ways is, it's sort of startling. It's something that you may not expect, and that's, again, that's the whole point of the lecture, sort of challenging rules about trading that you've heard. And it's again, it's always about the concrete positions that you have in front of you. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, challenge dogma. See you next week.